Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to GDI's Consulting webinar for the U.S. Air Force Battlefield Airmen Multiple Award IDIQ. It's a contract webinar. My name is Larry Weiss, and I'm the Senior Business Development Manager at GDI Consulting. I'm also joined with Ab Van, who heads our capture and proposal development. Some administrative notes. As you can see, the webinar is being recorded, and the link to recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. If you can put your questions in the chat line, we will also hold a Q&A session at the end, and you can do it either way, and we will address them at that time. You can also download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right side panel on your window. Let me tell you a little bit about GDI Consulting. We have 10 years of solid performance, rocket growth, as you can see on the slides. We have participated in many major procurements and some smaller ones. We have an 81% win rate, which is testament to the fact that we go not just to play, but to win. And we have a lot of experience in that area. We have 210 wins in 2018 alone. So on the next slide, we can see just some of the wins that we've had recently. And you can see lots of DoD, some DISA, GSA, DHS, HHS. My background has been working for companies like Oracle. VMware is, in the government, you don't play just to play, you play to win contracts. And you can see we've had a lot of success in a wide variety of major procurements, and we're very proud of that. So the fact that we've had $6.2 billion worth of contracts won is testament to that. So let me just go to the next slide, and let me just review the agenda a little bit, the focus, the highlights, and again, we'll try to leave some time at the end for Q&A. So at this point, let me turn it over to Ab Van, who will go through the presentation. Ab, take it away.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Ab Van. I head our capture division at GDI Consulting, and today we're going to go over this RFP. The focus of this RFP, as you can see, this is a multiple award IDIQ to modernize and sustain the special warfare dismounted operators. So the overall objective of the contract is to quickly procure supplies, and they've said that some of these procurements might be a 30-day turnaround, as well as related training and product support to field or integrate into larger systems in support of the special warfare mission requirements. So this is essentially the focus of this RFP. Okay, what are the highlights? Okay, if you have participated in the previous industry days, you know that there are 3 of these contracts on the table. This one is the multiple award contract, IDIQ. But there are 3 of them, family of contract. There's a systems engineering integration solicitation. That's a single award contract. Second one is this one that we are today going over, which is the multiple award IDIQ. And there's going to be an inventory control point solicitation as well. So there are 3 of these in the family of these contracts. But today we are concentrating on the middle one, on the multiple award IDIQ. This is a total small business set aside, so only small businesses can participate. But there's no differentiation as to what type of set aside you have, women-owned or STV, OSB, or anything like that. So as long as you're a small business, you're good to go. Number of awardees is not defined yet. As you know, this is still in the pre-solicitation stage, has not come out, but they have said that it's multiple award. but they have not mentioned how many. The ceiling from different sources is anywhere between $500 million to $950 million, depending on different sources. The government itself has said $500 million in the previous industry day, but there are also some sources saying that this is going up. The contract will be a 5-year contract, 1-year base, and 4-year option. And the next code is 339999, which is all other miscellaneous manufacturing. Now, to quickly go over the mission areas, there are 6 of them, or actually 5 of them, plus the foreign military sales, FMS, which could cover any of those. But the assault zones, that's one. That's the capabilities that support tactical zones of action, like the drop zones or fixed or rotary wing landing zones and all of that. Fires, anything, all the equipment that operators need for close air support, they fall into this category. And miscellaneous equipment for fire support and all that. Weather, all information that is all equipment that is needed for that operators need to collect, analyze, or report weather information and oceanographic information, all that. Personal recovery, anything, all the equipment used for pararescue to prepare, recover, or bring in and reintegrate isolated personnel. Enabling technologies. This is common across a lot of mission areas and includes mission management, friendly force detection, geolocating, all of that. And then all of this also integrates into the foreign military sales program as well, so it could cover that too. Now let's look at the items acquired by this contract. As you can see, there's a long list. Infill and exfill, that's ground mobility equipment, aerial insertion equipment, and maritime dive equipment. Individual equipment and gear that might be needed and might be acquired in this contract. General apparel, personal protective equipment, PPEs, dive apparel, footwear, medical bags, packs, climbing, water rescues, survival and navigation, and helmets. All of that lies into the individual equipment that can be acquired under this contract. Under the enabling equipment, we get technical recovery equipment, fires equipment, which we covered, visual augmentation equipment, micro weather sensor equipment, and assault zone equipment. And then we have the unmanned systems, anything involving the unmanned vehicles, the equipment needed there. So these are the different types of equipment that might be procured under this contract. I should mention that today we are more concerned towards the actual proposal writing and proposal preparation rather than the capture part. We can discuss that probably in a separate webinar. There's a lot to say about this contract as far as capture is concerned. Today, we wanted to quickly go over these and then spend a little bit more time on the proposal that is going to be written or needs to be written for this. So all companies that are going to participate. Okay, so here's the proposal volume structure. There are essentially 2 volumes. First volume is technical volume, and volume 2 is contract documentation. Now, 2 interesting things. One, there's no pricing in this. So essentially, you get on the IDIQ without providing any pricing. Pricing factor kicks in at the TO level, so you don't need to prepare a price volume. Also, if you see, there's no past performance. So as long as you can prove that you can do it, you're not supposed to present any relevant past performance for this RFP. So these are 2 interesting things to consider. So essentially, as far as competition is concerned, everything lies on what goes into volume 1. And you can see it's only 25 pages. So that makes it much harder usually. When you have 50 pages to write, you can write much better or easier. But when you have 25 pages, you have to be very concise and make sure that you're using those 25 pages properly. Word by word, you have to work on it. So the technical volume is divided into 2 sections, what they call the entry gate, which the maximum page count is 5, and then subfactor 1 product sourcing, which has 20 pages for the page limit. And I want to go into a little bit more detail about what these are. Now, the entry gate part, which is 5 pages, revolves around 2 things. First of all, the ITAR compliance narrative. So you really need to make sure that you fully understand how ITAR works and how when exporting sensitive equipment outside the US, you need to prove in this narrative that you understand the procedures and the regulations and everything. So this is very important because this is a gate. They've named it entry gate. We'll get to that in the compliance section, but if you're not good here, they're not even going to look at the rest of the proposal. So this is important to have it. And then the second thing in the entry gate is that you need to have a DTTC registration. That's the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls. You must be registered with them. That's at the DOS, Department of State. So you need to provide the documentation showing that you are registered there, and your documentation should be up to date. So that is the entry gate. First, you need to write through a narrative that you do understand how ITAR works, how you can export sensitive material outside US. And then secondly, you need to have the proof that you're registered at the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls, as they call it, DDTC, with the DOS, Department of State. So these are the 2 important things that go into the entry gate, which is 5 pages. Now, the second part of Volume 1 technical volume is what they call Subfactor 1 product sourcing. And product sourcing, you have 20 pages for it, and you have a lot to explain. This is where, excuse me, this is where you really need to be concise. You need to go over 3 issues. First one is a process for establishing supplier arrangements. That is current suppliers and new suppliers that you're going to get. So you need to cover this, describe the arrangements that you have in place right now, and also what arrangements you're going to create in the future that enable you to provide and distribute the different types of supplies and products that is required in the statement of work. So this is the first section that you need to cover. Second section is you need to explain your DMS/MS process. This is the diminishing manufacturing sources and material shortages process. Here, you need to explain what your process and procedures are for identifying the loss of manufacturers and suppliers for the items that you're looking, or for the raw material, and even for the software. So if those manufacturers or suppliers are going to go out of business, or for any reason you're not going to work with them, or for any reason their production level is going to drop, you need to say what your process is to resolve this. You should explain your approach on how you actually find out about the problem and the needs and changes, and how to go after the alternatives. that's the second section that you have to cover under this product sourcing. And the third one is a narrative to explain your approach to sourcing supplies that require restrictions. In other words, restrictions such as the Berry Amendment, preference for certain domestic commodities, Buy American Act, and all of that. So you have to explain here how you go about getting those, how you go about even dispatching them. So all the full process for the supply chain, for the monitoring that we are compliant with these, and what remedies we provide in case we find out there's a problem in the process, and what alternatives we provide in case we find out a brand name or something is non-compliant with these regulations. So these are the three areas that we need to cover under product sourcing, and we have 20 pages for this. It might seem that 20 pages might be high, but it is not, because we have to go over, it is better to go over all the different types of equipment one by one and cover them here. In other words, what we explained in the different equipment that we need to procure, it would be best to go over those and make them the content of the proposal. So we should go over each one of these when we are explaining the process for the three different areas here, just to make sure that we don't miss anything. So 20 pages is not a lot, and we need to be very concise in writing the proposal. Now, the second volume, contract documentation, is nothing important. You just have to go, it's the usual RFP documents that you have to fill out, 1449 or certain reps and all those documents. And as I mentioned, there's no pricing required. Now, the way they're going to evaluate the proposals is, as I mentioned, it's a two-step process. First, they look at the entry gates part, the 5-page narrative and documentation. They want to make sure that you understand the ITAR compliance and make sure that it's sound. You have a sound approach to shipping to OCONUS. They also want to ensure that you have the proof of the DTTC registration. So that needs to go with the proposal. So these are the two things they check. If your company is good there, then they move to step 2. If not, they put aside your proposal. Assuming that you have covered these properly, then you go to step 2. And in step 2, the technical factor, they're going to cover it in 2 grounds. First, cover it on compliance, and then on risks. If a company is not found to be unacceptable in compliance, and when they say compliance, it means compliance in format and compliance in content. When I say compliance in format, it means that if you have not covered everything that they want in the proper way, your proposal is not formatted the way they have said, you've gone over the, for example, page limit, or you haven't put in this, that, all of that is considered non-compliance, unacceptable as far as format is concerned. Now, in terms of content, if you have not covered properly any of the 3 areas under technical factors, then that's considered unacceptable in compliance. And you say you haven't covered, for example, how you're going to manage restrictions on Berry Amendment or other things like that. If you've not covered that, you're non-compliant and your proposal is put aside. So that's the first thing they're going to check, compliance. If that's good, then they're going to do another review as far as risk factors are involved. And then they have given 4 areas for risk factor. The lowest or the worst is unacceptable. Then they have high, And then they have medium and low. So medium and low are good as far as your proposal being acceptable, but you really need to stay at that low level so that because they're not this RFP is not whoever has the minimums they're going to pick. They do have a limit for the number of awards. So if say they have five, they have a limit of five. They have to somehow pick between the 10 companies, for example, that all have acceptable technical factors. So you really need to shine as far as the risk factor is concerned, and also in terms of content. So that's something to consider. So when you prepare your proposal, the three factors under the technical factor, the three areas, they need to be really strong. You need to provide the proof points very strongly to make sure that that risk factor is low, and that depending on the number of awards, you will be one of them. So this is essentially the evaluation procedure that they're going to take. Now, what is our suggested win strategy? First of all, you need to make sure that your DDTC document is updated. Make sure that it's not dated and it is available, and you can provide it with the proposal. Secondly, if you're not well versed with ITAR practices, then you need to get a SME to write that part, because it is very important, and as you know, that's entry gate. So you don't want to miss that and be disqualified because you have not written a good narrative on ITAR practices. So make sure that you have a good narratives on ITAR. Now, the government is going to pick on compliance both in format and in content. So that's their first line of defense. If you have because assume that they want to pick 5 companies or 3 companies. If they get 15 proposals, the easiest way to put aside proposals for being non-compliant, both in format and in content. So make sure that you have multiple sets of eyes checking for compliance of your proposal. Also, 20 pages is very short, as I mentioned, for answering the 3 items in the product sourcing part. You need to be concise, short. You need to have very strong proof points, and then give the evaluators confidence that you can do it better than the others, so that your risk factor will be low. So all of that needs to be done in 20 pages. Our suggestion is to outsource the proposal writing part, or at least get it reviewed by an independent body. So if you write it yourself, get it reviewed by somebody outside your organization, and that way you make sure that both as far as compliance is concerned, and more importantly, as far as the content of those 20 pages is to the point. And if you don't have the technical SMEs to write those, you really need to go after getting SMEs to write the 3 sections. So that's something to consider as well. The level of your SMEs in-house, and also if you need to get a partners or an outside company's SMEs to write parts of the response. So this is what we think your win strategy should focus on, to have a proposal that, first of all, passes through the minimums, the compliance checks, and also gives a very low risk factor to the government, and you can be competitive as far as the selection is concerned. So here I think the services Larry can address better than me. So Larry, you take over from here.
All right, so you can see what Abgon has gone through is that the services that GDIC could provide is obviously, you know, help in proposal development. As experienced as I am in government contracts, the government loves to have a lot of people bidding, but they really look at the proposals, how well they're written, how they're developed, and that everything is put together properly. So what we can do is help with, obviously, the proposal process, do a review, an audit of your technical volume, and more importantly, provide good staff augmentation in terms of writers, technical subject matter experts, ITAR subject matter experts. You know, we can help you win. And I think if you saw before, with an 80%, 81% success rate, we're pretty confident that we can help you. If there are contact information, I'm the business development manager, and I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. Ab is our VP of capture, and he has been with the company as long as it's been around. So this is our contact information that you'll be able to use. If there are any questions, I don't see any in the chat line at this point. Let me see, or maybe, let's see. I don't see any in the chat line. If does anybody want to have any questions now, or you could wait, contact us afterward. By the way, you will get a copy of these slides in a couple of days through the webinar. Are there any questions? Or
I did receive one question actually by email. That was quick.
Okay. Okay.
Question is, when is the RFP expected to drop? Now, with our discussion with the contracting officers, they had told us that perhaps even as soon as September, but we doubt it very much because they're all working on the contracts that they need to award before the end of the fiscal year. So we think that this RFP is going to drop sometime during October or November. So that's what's so far been said. Now they might postpone that even more, but so far it will probably come out either in October or in November.
Well, one thing I know the government is famous for is delaying, but hopefully this requirement will be sooner rather than later. Another question came in, Ab. Do you see any software requirements in this IDIQ?
No, they haven't said specifically, but they have said that one of the claims is for software licenses. So it might be that you have to provide software licenses as one of the requirements for this. But they haven't specifically mentioned. There are a lot of discussions about updates for the softwares and the firmwares to the equipment and things like that, but nothing specific as long as what type of software you need to actually provide. Okay.
Another question came in. We do not have a GDIC. How long does it typically take to get one?
Okay, that one I do not know, but I can ask because I do have a very good friend that is in that department, and I can get back to, I think it was by Shauna, right? So I will get back to her and let you know.
Any other questions, comments? Hopefully you got some good information from this.
Okay, I guess.
All right, I think we're winding up. So thank you very much for your time. Again, you'll get a copy of this. You have Ab and my contact information. Don't be shy about asking what ifs, or can we, or quotes, or whatever we can do to help. And again, thank you for your time, and everyone have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll keep the webinar on for a couple of minutes or more. So in case you haven't downloaded the slides, you can download the slides, and then we look forward to hear back from you. Thank you, and have a good day.